Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Dennis Meador, to the show today. Dennis is the CEO and founder of the Legal Podcast Network and is dedicated to bringing turnkey podcasting solutions to professionals across the United States, particularly attorneys. With over 20 years of experience in marketing for the legal profession, he is passionate about helping attorneys engage more clients and establish themselves as authorities in their specific areas of practice. When he built his first business at just 14, selling snow shoveling, lawn mowing, or paper route jobs while his team did all the work. This knack for business continued throughout his career, where he successfully grew 3 companies from under $1 million in revenue to over $3 to $5 million in just 1 to 3 years. His background is rooted in business and podcasting. In 2019, he had a successful podcast focusing on the food, music, and life in Austin, Texas. This experience gave him a unique perspective as he created high-quality podcasts. Now he combines these passions to offer innovative solutions for legal professionals. I'm excited to have you here, Dennis. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Absolutely. You've had a quite interesting and varied entrepreneurial journey. I'm excited to dive into that and talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the first business I had. It was, you call it a business, whatever, but it's kind of an interesting discovery. So I learned at a very young age, probably 8 or 9, to just pay attention to money for different reasons that I won't necessarily go into. And then when I was, about 14, I remember going, and I had a friend his situation was kind of parallel to mine. I was one of 6 kids. And so he was one of several kids. And we were both kind of in a situation where we were around people with money, but our family didn't have money. And so, and our parents were the kind of parents back then where they'd say, well, if you want it, go earn it. This is what I'm buying you. If you want something more than these shoes or something more than these clothes, if you want the brands that are popular at the moment, then you need to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So at 14 in a private school, me and my friend had told me about, he'd gone snow shoveling, and he was like, man, I earned like over $100 in a day. And of course, to a 14-year-old, that's a fortune.
Exactly.
So we went out and started knocking on doors, myself, my younger brother of about 2 years, and then his best friend. And we were taking turns knocking on doors, but they got to the point where we got maybe an hour in or so. And I think we had maybe shoveled just a couple of driveways or sidewalks. And I think I was the one that convinced people to have us do it. And I don't know if I just, batted my younger, cuter eyes or what happened, but, got a couple of older ladies that said, sure, boys, you can shovel our walk. And so my brother and his friend, we came up to, it was, their turns, and they were, one of their turn. And they said, I don't want to knock anymore. I'm tired of everybody telling me no. I was like, well, I'll knock. That's fine. It didn't bother me, because I mean, from a young age, I've always had the philosophy, if you don't ask, the answer is already no. So asking is just, there's only upside to asking the question.
That's right.
Which made me not so great of a kid all the time, but definitely has made me a better adult. So I'd go up to the door and I knock on the door, and the lady's like, yeah, sure. Just shovel down the walk here in the front walk area. And I'll give you $20. And I said, okay, can you give me a 10 and 2 5s? And she said, sure. So she handed me $20, a 10 and 2 5s. I went and handed my brother a 5. I handed his friend a 5, put 10 in my pocket. And I said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. You guys shovel this walk. By the time you get done, I'll keep knocking doors. I'll have another job for you, and you'll just walk straight to the next job, and we'll just make a ton of money today. And they were like, okay, sure.
Nice.
So I just started doing that, knocking on doors, selling the jobs. Then I started taking down the people's address and writing it down and putting it in my pocket because I was like, okay, next time I'm just going to knock on these doors,
Right.
So I basically got those jobs, had my brother and his friend, and then it started growing from there with basically anything within walking distance. It was snow shoveling. Then come spring, summer into early fall, because I grew up in Iowa, the Midwest.
Right.
We would, I got lawn mowing jobs, same thing. I would get the job, I would collect the money, pay them half, I would keep half. And then I got into the paper route resold all the paper routes because they were like, wow, you're doing a really good job. You collect on time, you get everything out. But it was my quote unquote employees and my brother, who's now a super Walmart manager and has been for years and years. He always, when we get together as a family, he always jokes. He's like, to think I was your first employee. And now here we are all these years later. And, you've done this, you've done that. So, so that was my kind of my first adventure where I learned you make a lot more money being the person that makes things happen than actually doing things.
Right.
And so that's how I got into it. Then at 18, I had always kind of told myself I wasn't going to be in sales because my dad was in sales and it was feast or famine. It was, he was in home sales and, so always canceling. Oh, I'm stuck at this client's house. And to me, sales had such a negative connotation of just like owning your life. And so I took a job telemarketing while I was in college and ended up working for this big company at the time. They were the one that had all the FOP contracts and calling and soliciting back in the 90s, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into that and did very well at it. And all I did was I got there and I was just like, put me next to the two best people here. And I just listened to them and I did what I called a second puberty because they were all like guys in their 40s.
Yeah.
They were all like, this is John with the Fraternal Order Police, da, da, da. So they had these like kind of voices that would just like be booming. And so I did that and developed my voice. It took me a couple months, but within, I think, 4, 5, 6 months, I was the number one telemarketer in their whole company. They ended up moving me into script writing, sales process development. They would say, hey, we think we could sell this. And they would give it to me. And then I would start talking on the phone. I would write it down, start talking, write it down. So I got into script writing, sales process development. And then from there, it was just like, I got into business to business sales, started selling ads in magazines, and took that department from doing like $60 per person per hour to like $150 per person per hour. And I was like 19 years old at the time. And I was managing guys that are my age now, 45, 47, and that had got passed over for the position. And it was a big jump into that sort of leadership. But I just basically said, guys, I'm not here because I'm better than you. I'm just here because they think I'll do a better job in motivating you. So what do I need to do to motivate you? And I just found out some people were like, if you leave me alone and you don't try to correct me and just give me my reports that I asked for, okay, sure. Here you go. Here's your reports. So that kind of snowballed into, from that point on, different businesses. I had some projects that, just like any entrepreneur, some projects that just kind of took off. I think I was maybe 22, and a guy that I had worked with in advertising, selling ads over the phone, maps, magnets, posters. And again, just for whatever reason, ended up doing very well, was the number one rep in that company. And they had, 400 or 500 reps. And so he's like, hey, I started a company. Will you come join me? Sure. Absolutely. It sounded fun to me. I'd done that in the past. We started in probably 6-foot by 8-foot room. We had to take turns making phone calls. And within a year, so I had come up with a product. It was called a just in case emergency guide. It was a 6x9 refrigerator magnet. And in the center, it had poison control, animal control, on-call nurse at the hospital, emergency power outage number. And then around the side, we had 2x2-inch squares that we sold to like one realtor, one mortgage, one insurance, one body shop. And then underneath it, we had a little strip, and we would have like a pizza place, and then we would have 2 little logos, and we would call the fire department, the police department. We'd say, hey, we've got these magnets. They've got these numbers on them. They do have local businesses, but nothing that as a business, you'd be ashamed of. Like there would be strip clubs, smoke shops or anything like that, sort of controversial. And they would distribute them so we would literally just call up a local business, say, hey, I'm with this company, but I'm working with your fire department. They're going to be handing out these magnets. If you'd like to be on it, it's $500.
Nice.
So, we would sell that. They'd get passed out. And that was one of the businesses that we took literally took it from zero to within a year, we were doing 5 million with a net 25% profit margin.
Wow.
That's when the first time I was able to kind of go remote. This was like 2001, 2002. And I actually lived in Romania part-time, built a house there, went back and forth to Europe. My wife at the time was Romanian, so that's why Romania of all places at that time. And 10 years out of communism was definitely a different place, but it was a fun adventure. But yeah, so did that until moved to Tulsa. My partner convinced me to open up a second business, and then about 6 months into it, I'm using a lot of my passive income to build this second office. And the agreement between us was that we were going to work together. We had split the states. Like, he had these states, I had these states. And then I get into it, I've got like 15 people working for me, including like 4 or 5 members of my own family that have moved into the area. And all of a sudden one Friday, there's no check in my account. And I was like, what's going on? And he said, oh, well, I talked to my attorney and you're competing against me. And I said, how am I competing when we share a name, we share a website? You're literally selling the product that I invented through the people that I train. And so basically I went and got a lawyer. When I went and got a lawyer, his lawyer suggested he bankrupt the company and reopen it in his wife's name. So he did that. So then he went from a net 25 to a net 50. So then we split our ways. I did consulting for the next few years, because that kind of stuff, like when you have to sit down and fire people, including your own family in your mid 20s, it's a jarring experience.
It's
to
terrible.
sit there and, have people that literally like a month before were just like, you've saved my life. You're the best person in the world. And then of course, I've learned a little lesson in life that anybody that you're paying, it's not that you can't trust them, but they tend to express the most positive view of you that they possibly can.
Yes.
It's not very often that you're going to get somebody who is getting paid well by you that's going to come up to you and be aggressive in some way. But all these people that, made me just short time before made me feel as if I had progressed or as if I had, saved their life, came back and were just like, you're this, you're that. And it was crushing.
Yeah.
And so it took quite a long time before I ventured back in. So now we jump ahead to did different consulting. I broke a lot of what I did what I like to call breaking comp plans.
Mhm.
That's where people hire you at their typical comp. And then you end up making more than anybody in the company. And they get mad about it. And including like the CEO.
Uh-huh.
And like the CEO is just like, your check is more than mine. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I have to change that. And I was like, why? That's the compensation that you agreed to. And he's just like, yeah. And I said, I even told you that I'm very good at what I do. And so I'm going to make a lot of money. And they're like, yeah, but everybody says that when they start. And I'm like, fair enough. But still, or like you sell so much that their fulfillment department kind of breaks, because they just can't keep up with it. So I did that, basically just like setting up mostly like, you think about 2008, 2009, 2010, when all that happened, a lot of businesses were like, we don't know how to get business. Business just came to us.
Yeah.
So I would just come in, consult, set up the inside sales process, train the core staff, and then basically have like a 6-month residual. That was basically how I was making my money. And then after a couple of like back and forth where they just, I don't want to say I did too well, but they just didn't like how much I was making.
Mhm.
I launched my own agency, and I launched it. I kind of had this opinion early in the internet, especially so I jumped on the internet 2004. That was one of the first things I did. That's how I started working with 2003, started working with attorneys.
Okay.
That's kind of when I started and was like, oh, wow, like these guys spend way more money than, I've been trying to get businesses to spend $200-$300 with me. And it'd be nice. I could get 10 or 12 of them in a day. Then all of a sudden I started selling to attorneys. And at the time we were just basically, there's a company and they would just basically go in and buy all the Yahoo ads for next to nothing.
Mhm.
And then we would show the PI attorneys, hey, Google personal injury Atlanta, and be like, look right there at the top, there we are. And they'd be like, oh, wow, So we would sell them for $5,000 a month and then have 5 in a market. So $25,000 per market per practice area.
Mhm.
And then we would just dominate that market, spend probably, 20% of that on, acquisition and own the market because everyone didn't really get it. But then 2014, I basically knew that the smaller the internet got, the bigger it would be.
Okay.
I knew that. Like, I was just like, everyone keeps talking about how the internet's going to connect you with the world, but until it really connects you with the people right next to you,
Yeah.
people aren't going to really plug into it that much. Well, that was really kind of when Facebook was now becoming the social way, 2012. And I started an agency and it took off. I called it Media Social. And essentially what I did is I created a local, very hyper local news outlet that was run completely by volunteers. I had 15 people that were just passionate about different aspects of their community. And I would give them a platform. We launched our page, and in a town of 150,000, we had 25,000 followers within a week.
Oh, wow.
When we launched our Facebook page. And so I was going around, I was shooting video, I was shooting on the side, I was doing all kind of like in 2012, 2013, 2014. I was like creating like all of these like really cool relationships with different types of businesses. We had a couple of girls that were on The Voice at the time. And like, I managed to like basically be the exclusive person at their watch parties and stream it. And like, then had them for like, I had this huge event with a local Chick-fil-A owner where we ended up like, we had probably 1,000 people there. He gave away like over like 1,000 Chick-fil-A meals. And then we had all these local businesses set up, and then the girls perform. And then there's actually this lemonade that is now national that we launched at that.
Oh, wow.
And
back then the Facebook pages were completely different games back then. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, the organic reach was disgusting, but we were posting 15 times a day and everything or more. We were just constantly posting.
Wow.
And so like everyone in the town, like if there was if traffic was backed up, we'd get a text, and then I would confirm it because I'd always confirm. So people would just, into the page, oh, there's a fender bender at this corner. And I'd be like, okay, who's close to there? Hey, can you go check this out? Confirmed. Okay, cool. Hey, everybody be careful. So like we were just doing news in live time.
Wow.
And so with confirmation, and so all the local media outlets hated us. They would cover everything we do, except for they wouldn't give us any credit for it. So they would just be like, like we had this, like, we called it Pray for Logan Day. There was a young man on the cross country team at the high school that had got hit and basically had to start life over. And I covered it, and I really covered it very carefully. I didn't want it to seem like news. I wanted it to seem like, hey, this is our town. This is our people. Like, what can we do to help? Like, what can we do for this young man? And when his birthday came, a young girl said, hey, I got this restaurant. Do you think that you could help out with it? That they're going to donate a portion of their proceeds. And we ended up getting 30 or 40 businesses. Mm-hmm. Some of them, like if they weren't restaurants, they did funds matching up to like $5,000.
Wow.
And so we did this. There were restaurants like Lone Star Steakhouse had a 3-hour wait that night. People were lined up out the door. The Firehouse Subs had to stay open an extra hour and a half. I mean, it was insane what we were able to do just by plugging a community together. And it was like, there was a bigger town next to it that everyone would say they're from that town. It's kind of like I lived in Austin, and then there's Round Rock just above Austin. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say, oh, I live in Austin, and they really live in Round Rock. But people who are from Round Rock, they're like, no, like, we're Round Rock, we're our own city.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of that thing there. Like I just plugged in sort of mentality of, we're not this town, we're our own town. And actually our town is older than their town just because they're bigger, blah, 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 and just kind of plugged into that. We'd go to the football games with like 3 cameras and like full, like
Friday Night Lights, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like full camera crews and go around, and we get everybody shouting our little tagline. And so created all these cool videos. Cool. I mean, it's just everything that blew up and went really well until one day my wife was like, listen, our kids are becoming teenagers and I need your help. If you aren't going to be plugged in anymore, like maybe this isn't working. And I've always been of the opinion, like I like my business, but I love my partner. So I'm going to choose that over, whatever. So I sold off that business for really pennies on the dollar of its value, but I made sure that they had good people taking care of their stuff. And I ended up in Austin, so did the corporate life for a while and then launched with another guy. He had a business, was SEO to attorneys. Mm-hmm. And he had 87 clients when I started. And then when I left about a little over a year ago, closer to 500 clients. He was doing less than $1 million when I started. He was doing well over 5 when I left.
Well,
So it was one of those things that, and that was me knowing not to break, like being very careful, because it'd be like, sell more. I'm like, I'm not going to sell more. This is all you're handling. Every time I sell above that, then clients get treated poorly. I get emails like, no, and then when you show me that you can handle more volume, I'm more than happy to do that.
yeah.
So that's my entrepreneurial journey, just in the sense of, what I've been able to be a part of. I've always kind of had a knack is maybe the word, but seeing ways to monetize that are unique
Okay.
has really been my forte, because like I was making money off Facebook. No one was making money off Facebook at that time. And here I was like making really good money, because the way I did it is businesses would come to me and say, how do I work with you? And say, well, we got these promotional packages, but also you want to be good at social. And I would just hire moms, like stay-at-home moms in the community.
Yeah.
And they would manage like 5 of the accounts, and they had to go in once a week for 30 minutes, take pictures, take a little video with the owner, and they did all their posts for them.
Nice.
And then, I'd charge them $250. I'd pay the mom $100, and it was just like nice little side income, and I didn't have to do anything. So I always kind of figured out a way pretty quickly to monetize. Same thing with like podcasting. Like coming into podcasting, I was like, listen, podcasting to me, I didn't see myself as being able to get millions of followers.
Okay.
But what I can get is I can help people who want a handful of people that really need their services, like attorneys. I can connect those people.
Okay.
So like when I talk to attorneys, I'm like, listen, because they'll ask me questions like, well, I don't see any hooks. And like, because you can tell when they've watched the 3 to 5 minute videos on how to be good at whatever, right?
Yes.
So they're like, I don't see a hook on this. And how is this supposed to go viral? And I'm like, listen, if you want to go viral, then, learn how to ride a unicycle, learn how to juggle while eating a pickle, and then drive off the edge of a pier, and you'll go viral.
Yeah.
But if you want clients and you want to be respected for what you do, then that's what I do. Would you rather have 3,000 people see your video that you're never going to see, or 30 where 5 of them become your clients?
Yeah.
And obviously the second one is infinitely more valuable. And so understanding ways of monetization has really been, like I said, it's been something that I've been able to kind of be like, that doesn't quite work for everybody, but I think I can figure out a way that it can work for most.
It is interesting. I run into that all the time about how do you make this go viral? Is that really what you want? I mean, that is the question to ask. So you're with your new podcast network. So you're working with attorneys to get their voice out there and to be the go-to attorney with their podcast. Are you focusing on local marketing? How are you getting the listeners, or what is your process?
What's your plan to grow your law firm's sales and profits in 2025? My name is Marilyn Jenkins, and I want to take a quick moment to share something I'm super excited about. It's called the Law Firm Growth Guild. It's your shortcut to mastering marketing and getting more clients. It's sponsored by Law Marketing Zone. If you're a lawyer or a law firm owner who's been feeling overwhelmed, juggling clients, leading your team, and trying to scale without losing your sanity, I get it. It's a lot. That's exactly why I created this online membership community. I've been working with law firms since 2018, and I've worked with and helped hundreds of firms across the U.S. and Canada to grow and scale their firms beyond where they had ever been before. The Law Firm Growth Guild is designed to help you understand marketing strategies and grow your firm smarter and to scale your firm predictably. And here's the best part. It's only a fraction of the price of a cup of coffee daily. My team and I are adding new content weekly, and you can be intentional about your growth and development each week. All of our webinars and workshops are in the community, and a first good workshop is all about setting your vision for your strategy for 2025. We've got workbooks, spreadsheets, and everything to walk you through setting up your marketing plan for 2025. Getting crystal clear on where you're going and how to get there. Imagine walking into this new year with confidence, with a plan, and with the tools to make 2025 into your best year yet. Don't get left behind. Join the community now and jumpstart your growth for 2025 and beyond. Click the link in the show notes or visit checkout.lawmarketingzone.com to find out more and to join the community. Let's grow your firm together. I can't wait to see you on the inside of the law firm Growth Guild.
So how are we getting them listeners? Primarily, we're using social media. So because we use this philosophy I call stack. So, and it's really based off of like Gary Vee. Like, I'm not going to act like, I don't know if that's what he calls it, but essentially, one piece of content can become a million things. And so like, we'll have the attorneys sit down with us for, essentially it takes us a half hour to record one episode. So if they do one show a month, we need 2 hours every 4 months for them to sit down with us. We take that, we shoot it streaming, just like we're doing now. We then take that, we edit it, we add skins, we add the lower thirds, we make it look super professional for YouTube. We then also we obviously pull the audio, add the intro and outro for audio, and then upload it to through Podbean to like, I don't know, 23 different channels or something like that. Podbean connects you to. And so we then take, and so now we've got a full video podcast, we've got a full audio podcast. We're on 24 different channels. And then we take that video, and each episode we tell them we'll pull at least 10 shorts out of it. And then we're like, anywhere and everywhere you want to be. Our big find recently, and I say find, but it's been out there, I just have been so focused, is GBP, Google Business Profiles, and Google My Business, right? Because now you can add your own content.
Right.
And if you are consistently adding your content, Maps is where it's at.
Right.
You're going to jump to the front of the line. And so all of my clients, like, I literally just hired a lady for a temp project that I've worked off and on with for years. And I was like, listen, I need to get all the Google Business Profiles connected to all my clients. Because if I can help them with that, video is important, like, especially because you've got YouTube directly connected to Google. So I always tell like my attorneys, I'm like, listen, you can outspend your competition or you can outposition your competition.
Exactly.
And if you outposition your competition, then people are going to hire you because of who you are, not because of, and help them with that. Video is important. Like, process works with my process, I'll work with them. But that's who we try to target as 1 to 10s. And, most of the people that we work with, they don't know. They're just like, they know law. They don't understand social media and like, well, how do I get TikTok? Like, what is TikTok going to help me? Well, I don't have Instagram. That doesn't help me. And I'm just like, it's not about necessarily getting clients off of Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting the algorithms to start noticing you and getting the social clout to where you can be in the places where you can get noticed.
Right.
If you only do the things that you think are going to directly impact your success at the moment, you're going to fail long-term every time. And that's the problem with a lot of attorneys, is they have that like old school mentality of like, I give you 500, you put me in your paper thing, or you put me on whatever, then I get phone calls right away. And I'm like, listen, this isn't throwaway advertising. This isn't pay-per-click. If you go spend $10,000 on pay-per-click and you're done and you got no clients, guess what? That's it. You're never going to get any clients from that $10,000.
That's turned off, right?
Whereas with video, it could be 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I probably one of my biggest ways of getting clients is when we email or call them or reach out to them in some way. And they're like, yeah, actually, I did a video like 3 years ago and my biggest case came off of it 2 years later. And it was just a little video I threw up there and didn't think much about it. And then I get a call. And so I'm wondering if I had more videos and more content and more this. And so we try to basically, my goal is to build a content machine for busy small business owners.
Okay.
I kind of want to be the, I want to be the person that people think about. They're like, oh, are you a part of that podcast network? What is that? Oh, well, what they do is they build you a podcast, but also like they do your YouTube and they do all of your social media, because we're getting everything symmetrical, timing their whole calendar. Like if they do 2 shows a month, we're posting at least like once a day. They do a weekly show, we're posting twice a day for them. Like we're coming in with a very holistic approach, because that is what's going to jump them to the front of the line on Google is good video, custom content. I always tell them this: custom content on a continual basis that keeps people on the page will always kill it with the algorithms.
Right.
That's the one piece of the algorithm that's never changed. Since I've been playing with these algorithms from the very beginning, you have custom content that people actually engage with. you're going to do well. It doesn't matter everything else.
And that's
So
why
you
it's so
might change
important
video.
that the post section of the Google Business Profile is so important that most people are not taking advantage of. The product,
Yes.
services, and posts. There's so many places, and posts are expiring. But if you're constantly putting content up, it's new content going up all the time. So I think
Yep.
you're absolutely spot on there. And I love that you're taking those meetings that you're recording and making the podcast and the video content. That's fantastic. And are you focusing on any specific practice area, or like you said, just the size of the firm?
No, not any. I mean, I honestly originally thought, because I pretty much, for the most part worked with like consumer facing. So personal injury, divorce, bankruptcy, like that's kind of been the main advertisers I've worked with. But what I've noticed with this product is the niche attorneys that come to me and are like, hey, can you help me? And they're like, and so we just do them on a national, like we just launched a show for a guy who's an FDA lawyer. He's an expert in like FDA and imports and like all of that. I'm like, hey, like that works for you. We just are in the production for another show for a guy who only does federal employer disability, wrongful termination, but they have to be employed by the federal government.
Okay.
And so it's like all of these like hyper niche sort of law firms that we're working with that I'm just like, and we all say it like niches, and there's riches and niches, right?
Right.
And then but you'd be surprised at how hyper niche these law firms get, just beyond that. Like we have a surrogate like law firm that we do the surrogate corner. Like, I mean, I could just sit here and just name off probably out of our about 80 clients, probably conservatively 20 to 25 of them are people that I would have never like picked out of a lineup to say that would be my client.
Wow.
But
well, it is interesting. Some of the really tiny niches that they specialize in it. Google it, they're going to come up, or with LinkedIn, they're going to come up. Very cool.
Exactly.
And you're focusing on the podcasting, making it more an authority marketing. Are you getting them out there and making them an authority in their practice area? Like, is it learning content, not learning, but valuable content as well?
Yeah, it's all QA. So I actually have a content director, lady named Tracy. Honestly, my team is like, it's killer. And I'm so lucky I launched this during kind of the remote age, because like Tracy, who I've actually worked with 7 years, when me and my partner split, or I should say he bought me out, I actually had a number of people come over with me and they're just like, hey, I want to work with you.
Nice.
Like, okay, that works for me. And so Tracy, who I've worked with for 7 years, for over 10 years, she's done like interviewed attorneys for books, for website content, and now for podcasts. So she understands how to like structure a content plan for these guys. And we do everything based off of like FAQ stuff. We pretty much just, everything isn't like, how was your week? Oh, tell me about your car. It's like, we get into her like, so what does, what happens during community property that is, that preceded the marriage? What happens to that property during it, or whatever, So
no, I
if
love
we get in,
that.
like very granular, like, and so each podcast is like 7 to 10 questions about a very specific subject.
Okay.
So that we can then also repurpose that and divide it into news bites. We can also divide it into what we're going to be launching what we call quick question podcasts. It's only going to be like 5 minutes, and it's going to be my host saying, how does this work? And then them saying, oh, well, in the state of North Carolina, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So about like 3 to 5 minutes. We also take the content and we transcribe it and then edit it into FAQ content and place it on their website for them, which helps with the SEO.
Absolutely.
They're like, well, do you do the SEO? We're like, I mean, we could do some light SEO work. If you want to hire us for SEO, my team can do that. That's the world we came from, but that's not our focus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can give it to your team. And if you have somebody doing SEO for your site, then, they can do all they want with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's something like we were talking about stacking earlier. And then how we get it on that local level is, we're really trying to backdoor through Google with the video, with the FAQ content. We're really this is a content play to get them in the search engines. And as a byproduct of this machine, they'll also gain people who will listen. But I always explain to them, it's very rare that you're going to have people who are consistent listeners. What you're going to get is people who are going to have questions, search that question, you're going to come up as answering it with your podcast or your website, and then they're going to go to it. Now they're going to know you. And then because you've assuaged their fears and given them clarity to their issue, now they're going to like you. So you're already 2/3 of the way.
Right.
What's the last piece?
Trust.
It's very simple. It's just a know, like, trust updated for today's day and age.
Yeah.
Because attorneys will tell you this, especially if they're like overbid. Just put them in front of me and I guarantee I'll close them. Well, sir, I hate to tell you this, but they aren't going to come in front of you until they're ready for you to close them nowadays.
That's right.
So you have to be who you are online, the same who you are offline. So many attorneys just have generic content online. It's just like, I'm an attorney and I do this, call me. And it's like, yeah, so do, 150 other attorneys within a 30-mile radius. But what's different about you? But now if they're answering questions, very specific questions, so we get very granular, like, okay, who is your ideal client? What is your ICP? Oh, divorce for high net worth individuals, primarily the man. Okay, let's speak to those very specific questions that they might have. Answer those questions consistently, continually, talk about what's going on in the world that would affect them in their point of view.
That's fantastic. I don't know how, I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with attorneys asking to do just that. FAQ videos are the easiest thing to do. And I love that what you're doing is you're making it a bigger podcast and you're making it more omnipresence in their community. So that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I love to take that approach and, really see. I just had one of my clients literally say, and I mean, this just because she tagged me in her LinkedIn post. So I obviously noticed it. And she said, thankful for my best year ever, thankful for me. She said, thankful for Dennis Meador for continually hounding me until I started the podcast. Nice. Because it's built relationships and brought in clients and blah, blah, blah. So, that's what it's really about, seeing that client that you have long-term that's like, okay, let me understand where you want to go with this. Okay. Did you just create your own job? Because if you just created your own job, then you just want like ideal cases.
Right.
So, and you want to make an ideal amount of money. So how do I help you do that? Oh, you wanted to create a business? Okay. So now you want a business, but does this business revolve around you or did you want to create a company? And that's what it is. The job, a business or a company is the way I kind of like categorize attorneys in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The business guy wants to have, him and maybe two other associates, but he still wants to be like kind of the business guy. He doesn't even want cases. He doesn't even want he just wants to grow that thing and bring in more people and get more cases and he's just driven. And so once I kind of find out that goal, then I kind of help tailor their approach to that goal. And I enjoy seeing the guy who comes in and it's just one and he's like, no, I want to create a company. And then working with them for 2, 3, 4 years and then seeing a company.
Yeah.
And seeing it go from, John Jones Esquire to Jones and Smith Esquire to Jones Smith and Johnson Esquire to Jones Smith, Johnson and Jameson Esquire with 8, associate attorneys and however many paralegals and everything. And you didn't do the hard work, but that you
laid the groundwork.
The pit crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're in the pit crew, making sure that car goes as fast and as far as they want it to and need it to.
Wow. I love that. I mean, you're doing what we all need to do. And then if you add paid ads on top of that, then you're just multiplying the results. I love it.
And that's kind of our next thing I want to start doing is I used to do a lot of like 510s, just minimal ad spend, but doing it on a radius
Mm-hmm.
and just making our guys like local celebrities. We're, looking to start adding that basically like an upgrade package or even internally. Cause I like to sell in a way that this is what you're going to pay. This is all you're going to pay. I'm not going to raise your rate. As long as you stay active with me, this is how much it is.
Right.
Like that's always been something that I love to do for my clients. And even if you keep somebody for 8 years and they're paying a third of what everybody else is, and maybe you're just breaking even, still you could point out and be like, oh, this guy we worked with for 8 years. And when he started with us, he was this size. And now we've seen this and we've seen this. So I love that kind of stuff, being able to impact other people.
Exactly.
I started to talk about my team, and I know we're getting towards the end, but I want to talk about my team a little bit because this is where I honestly do take the most pride.
Okay.
I talked about Tracy, and Tracy is, a tremendous asset. We also have like our producers, front and back end. We try to make sure that they have like 10 plus years experience. Our back end production guy, he's done a Super Bowl commercial for Doritos. He does production for NFL. He's in Santa Monica, so he's like in the LA market.
Well, okay.
He's worked with like Honda, The Economist, One Direction, the boy band from a few years back, Major League Baseball. Like his production credits are just phenomenal. And then, the advantage that in today's day and age of being able to get people like that is, they are expensive, but it's not as expensive as if I was necessarily hiring as a Hollywood producer, because if you can give them consistent work,
right,
and then be understanding when they get the big projects, they kind of like my guy, he'll be like, oh, I'm on site. I'm working on your stuff tonight. Cool. Hey, I won't bother you this week. Cause I know he's out there making his money.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he comes, he still keeps his work done. And then when he comes back and he doesn't have anything for 3 weeks or 3 months, he's working with me, putting out this like top level stuff. And it's just a win-win for everybody.
Nice.
Same with my hosts, background in like radio and then radio talk shows. And then now my primary host, he's been doing full-time podcasting for 6 years. And so he does a tremendous job. And that's the advantage that we have, is in this remote environment, you can go get A players. If you look at it from a, like, if you pay them properly, you treat them properly. I treat all of my people that are contractors like that as fellow business owners. I don't treat them like they work for me. And I never use that work for me. And when people say, oh, the boss says, I'm like, don't call me the boss. I'm just Dennis. We just work together. You don't work for me. You work with me. And I might have to sometimes give you direction on where to go, but I don't want you seeing me as the boss.
Mm-hmm.
I want you seeing me as I'm a much better motivator than punisher. If I have to punish somebody, they're not going to be on my team long.
Right.
If I have to, if they're only motivated by fear, not interested.
Right.
But if you're motivated by, success, teamwork, the satisfaction of getting done, or if you're motivated by money, I'm okay with that. Hey, if you get X amount done, I'll pay you this. But if you get to Y, I'll pay you this. And if it all reaches the same level of quality, I'm all for it. Like, I'm all for doing that. So building a remote team in today's day and age, I think, is a skill I've had the privilege of off and on for 20 years doing. So I've kind of learned the archetypes and learned with people what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, we've all made bad hires, but I think having the process of getting that A player right away and the synergy, you hire the personality. And I just love the amount of talent you've got surrounded with. It sounds like if someone chooses you to help with the podcast and building that video content and making them the star of their local area, you've got a great team that can actually do high quality work and get their business growing for them.
Exactly. I mean, I tell them right off the bat, I'm like, listen, with technology, an 8-year-old can have their own podcast right now.
Yeah.
You could just take your iPhone, talk into it for 20 minutes, send it off to somebody in Fiverr and upload it to Apple.
That's right.
But it's like back in the day, you could say that you have that you have your own TV show. But if I tune in and it's on, cable access, and you've got like a curtain behind you and you're sitting on folding chairs and you've got a grainy camera, I'm not going to be impressed. And it's the same thing today. You can have a social media presence very easy, just shooting it yourself and doing it yourself. But most attorneys, they didn't go to law school so they can learn how to be a video editor, an audio editor, a social media marketer, a branding, person. That's my next big thing this year. Is in the next few months, I want to hire a person that is literally just going to sit around and think of like creative ways for our clients to present themselves and to do these videos and to, episodes and their brand, and just that, like, literally that's all they're going to do is just be a creative mind that just goes client by client and is just like, oh, well, what if they did this? Because I'm doing that now. I'm like, we have a process server. And I'm like, why his show should be about when he went to serve papers, the crazy things that have happened, because attorneys will get a kick out of that. And, because his clients are attorneys, because I'm serving attorneys because I have a huge database, about 200,000. We're usually marketing to anywhere around 50,000 firms at any given time through our different channels. Then what I've noticed is I have all these businesses that serve the lawyers as well that are not my competitors. So I've started creating shows with them, and I want to get maybe 15 shows. So now I'm getting paid to create content for my client base, which will endear them to me. So I'm just like building all these shows over here, and going to attorneys and saying, hey, look at all this stuff on the podcast network that helps you. And now, so they're plugging in and saying, oh, wow, this is good for me. It's not just trying to sell me, it's helping me. But then they're like, wait, I want a podcast. And then it just kind of, again, I guess I just have this knack for being able to like find these little things that are just like, okay, let's plug them in. And even like those people, like we do a daily email to our client, not our client base, but to our marketing base that is, to help them. And now one newsletter each week is just covering, and the more we grow, maybe it'll cover 2 or 3, but it's just covering one of our what we call vendor shows.
Okay.
And so it just enables them to be able to go to our, because I think we have about 40,000 in our opt-in email database.
Okay. Well, okay.
So
it certainly sounds you have the base. Now it sounds like with what you offer to attorneys, that it'd be definitely advantageous for them to reach out and talk to you. Where would be the best place for them to connect with?
Probably our website, just thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. Pretty simple. Don't forget although I do own Legal Podcast Network, and I should just forward it because I know people forget it, but kind of like the Ohio State University, right?
Yes.
The Legal Podcast Network. Maybe I'll start saying it that way.
We'll make sure that that's in the show notes. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the best way. Check out my team, check out, and then YouTube, just search on YouTube, The Legal Podcast Network. You can come up with our channel. You can check out some of our videos. I'll have people say, oh, well, this video's been up for 2 weeks. It's only got 27 views. I don't know if I'm interested. And I'm like, you're not thinking how this benefits you. These are 27 people that wanted to view this.
Right.
How much would you pay for 27 people to be like, sit there and listen to you answer questions about their case type?
Exactly. I mean, you got to think of the big picture, and it does work out that way. Well, gosh, Dennis, this has been absolutely interesting, and I really appreciate your time. I know that you're going to be getting people reaching out to you, but I thank you for being here. We'll make sure that your links are in the show notes so that people can reach you quite easily.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. I probably talked a little too much, but I'll get better at that.
It's fine. It's fine. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marilyn. And thanks everybody for watching or listening.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.